Hello, a blissful evening to everyone present here. I am Miss Rita Dan, extending my cordial welcome to all to this national webinar titled Parenting Challenges. This webinar is jointly organized by SAMVAAD, Center for Dialogue, Counseling and Psychotherapy, Masala, Wardha, with St. Anthony National School, Civil Lines, Wardha. Professor Lawrence Stenberg, a distinguished professor of psychology, has said, good parenting helps foster the vibrant qualities of empathy, honesty, self-reliance, self-control, kindness, cooperation, and cheerfulness. Raising a happy and a healthy child is one of the most challenging jobs a parent can ever have. Perhaps parenting is one of the most researched areas in the field of social science. Being a parent, each day in our lives, we make deposits in the memory bank of our children. Let us together make it a memorable deposit. Today, we have some great and eminent personalities to guide us through during the webinar. Friends, we will have so much to learn and grasp from the session. So, please stay tuned till the end. I would like to remind you of a few points as we commence this webinar. All the participants are earnestly requested to turn off your webcam and microphones. You can post your questions and comments in the Google Meet chat box, and we will have an interaction session thereafter with the resource person. Now, may I invite Ms. Harsha ma'am to unfold the words of welcome to the gathering. Over to you, Harsha ma'am.
Welcome with a smile, a spirit of giving sense of humanity, a pledge to spread peace. What we instill in our children will be the foundation upon which they build their future. Good evening, one and all present here. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome all of you to the fact we have logged in to this national level one-day webinar on parenting challenges. Today, showing the dire need for guidance just for the parents, and what better way than learning from experts. I am fortunate to extend a warm welcome to all of you to this wonderful evening. First and foremost, my cordial welcome to the parent of St. Anthony National School, Reverend Father Raju Joseph Avakuran, the parent in all the sense to this institution, a stern disciplinarian and strict of loving father. On the behalf of all organizers and participants of this webinar, I extend a gracious welcome, Father. Our key speaker for this evening, Reverend Father Dr. Joshi, the founder and director of SAMVAAD, the Center of Dialogue, Counseling and Psychotherapy. Father is a person who studies his subject very deeply and communicates with a strong sense of conviction, a seasoned orator and an apt resource person for today's topic. Welcome you, dear Father, to this webinar. I myself, being a parent, hope to learn from your enlightening words. This evening, I would also like to welcome the participants and all my dear parents who have logged in for the webinar across Wardha and different districts of the state and country. I suppose this itself shows that the topic of today is so relevant and need of the hour. I thank all participants for sparing their precious time and being a part of this webinar. I welcome you all to this enriching session. Be it a face-to-face interaction or we have today on an online virtual space. The pulse of every event is an energetic team of organizers. We are blessed with a great one. Welcome all of you to this session. Now, as we gear up for the proceedings of the evening, let's keep our energy high and hope this evening makes us aware of ways we can become an effective parents for our children, young ones of this society with the present challenges we face. Thank you.
Thank you, Harsha ma'am, for your benevolent words of welcome. Thank you. Now, please allow me to give a brief introduction to the organizing institutes, that is SAMVAAD and SANS. SAMVAAD is a center for dialogue, counseling, and psychotherapy situated in the outskirts of the city Wardha. The word Samvad means dialogue. The name derives deep conviction that the entire universe is dialogical in existence. It takes inspiration from the life and mission of Saint Chavra, who championed for the cause of families and communities. The city of Wardha is known as the Gandhi city. And true to that, Samvad believes in the Gandhian concept of ahimsa. This institution conducts various training programs and attends to the needs of people like parents, teachers, students, couples, families, etc. through counseling. Next, I would like to inform you about the Institute SANS. SANS stands for St. Anthony National School. It is the leading ICSE school situated in the heart of the city Wardha. This institution ventures to provide education based on the principles of honesty, sincerity, and hard work through a team of expert educators. It inculcates holistic development in students under the firm leadership of our dynamic principal, Reverend Father Raju Joseph Avokar. The aim of SANS has always been to promote equity, existence in harmony, a creative learning environment for staff and students, and providing a student-centered approach for excellence. With these words of introduction, I request our Honorable Principal, Reverend Father Raja Joseph Avokaran, to inaugurate the webinar and deliver the keynote address. Over to you, respected Father.
Thanks, Rita ma'am. Good evening, Dr. Joshi, members of the organizing team of this webinar, other Reverend Fathers, teachers, parents, and well-wishers. I'm happy to see many here on this platform after a rather long break. Friends, you know well, teachers are parents and parents are teachers. I repeat, teachers are parents and parents are teachers. So school and parenting are intrinsically connected in more ways than one. Parenting is a 24 around the clock job or a life itself gifted to you by God, which you have accepted well. No one is a perfect parent. We are trying to do it rather well or trying to perfect ourselves as parents and teachers. In fact, it's our duty to perfect it and live out with utmost care and concern. We get to hear varied views on parenting, and we ourselves hold various views. Problems now faced by each family as a whole and each member in a family are different, and methods adopted to solve the problems, to face them by each one is singularly unique. No wonder. And so one cannot tell other what and what not to do. Instead, help to reach the best way out to boom to life. I do not believe if Dr. Joshi will be able to address all your problems in this 1.5 hour of discourse. But certainly, the guiding points shared here may serve as drops of warmth to reach a personalized way of finding solution to our problems, your problems. Apart from this, the sender Samvad can reach out to us in future, or we could reach out to it to find still more concrete solutions to our problems. Maybe this is a beginning, but that's the second part of it. Now, as parents and teachers, we are managing a new generation. Do you know generation shift or gap happens now in 5 years, they say. Can a child who is born 25 to 30 years younger to you engulfs a big change, unfathomable shift in paradigms, in perceptions and views? How less do we realize such sparkling realities, although we take this great adventure of forming great minds? Modern generations of modern techniques and modern ways of understanding problems too are modern. Parents and teachers sometimes punish children for their little and major mistakes. Punishments are either corporal or emotional. Knowing less, they bring no change in children. Often. Still, we need to go on and on to form well the future of our family, the future of our nation. Talents, technology, trends, and level of tolerance are ever new now, unlike our own childhood. Generation gaps are said before have to be filled up. Samskar have to be taught to our children. They need to be retaught before samskar becomes atyajar. It's in this context, talks as this will come up to our help at the concrete life moments. A change in perspective is essential. But who will change? The parents or children? Or our attitude and aptitudes towards change itself? The threatening pandemic COVID-19 is gradually dwindling, at least in reports. And if we take care, we know we are safe. Thanks to God, His mercy, and the health workers, police force, district administration, and others. But new trends developed after being together with family for quite some time now. They have taught you many things indeed. You know, until last year, a teacher here would say to a child to bring his or her parents in case the child acted beyond their teacher's power. Now, I just heard of a parent who told the child to bring his teacher home if he wanted the next meal. Problems are reverted. However, we are in a new mode of good family time and tides, beyond any doubt. You have begun to enjoy times together, although there must have been some hiccups, of course, no breakups. I believe in the beginning of March 2020 or April, when COVID-19 landed in India prominently. May this class, this webinar, corroborate your such insights which you received by your homestay in the last few couple of months. To face other members of the family, very especially the children with you, with a refreshed mind. Hence, I appeal you attend this webinar with your partner, and if possible, also the children. Call your children near you. Let them also sit with you. I hope Dr. Joshi will have no any problem with that. We are in the post Diwali tides, with a Panglosian mind. With all wishes of this deeply illuminating festival, let's begin again. Revise, renew, reckon, and refurbish. Christy Ann Martin once said, I am made to be wild, wicked, and free, to carry out my own destiny, to find a place in this world where I can be the most authentic version of me. I repeat, I am made to be wild, wicked, and free, to carry out my own destiny, to find a place in this world where I can be the most authentic version of me. Now, as grown up, as parents, as teachers, educated people of the society, allow me to translate this into the version of a child. In today's context of this webinar on parenting, I take a little freedom to reframe Christian's and Martin's statement to say, every child is made to be wild, wicked, and free, to carry out one's own destiny, to find a place in this world where my child can be the most authentic version of himself and herself. Now, on behalf of St. Anthony National School and St. Anthony Pre-Primary School, I welcome each of you once again, and also want to place on record my gratitude to all of you for making yourself available, and my company, the management team, for spending a lot of their efforts to put us together on this platform. Best wishes, Dr. Joshi, the organizing team, and all dear parents and teachers of SANS and SAPS. I remain. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, respected Father. We are indeed highly enriched through your virtuous words. Thank you so much. Moving ahead, the main part of the webinar is the talk. We have with us Moving ahead to the main part of the webinar, that is the talk, we have with us a renowned personality, Reverend Father Dr. Joshi, the resource person of today, to throw light on the topic, parenting challenges. May I invite respected Father to enlighten us. Over to you, Father.
Thank you very much, Ritana, for your words of welcome. And a very good evening to you all, dear friends, who have joined us today. It gives me immense pleasure to join all of you this evening, discussing a very relevant topic which is very dear to all of us as parents, teachers, and responsible grown-up adults. Friends, the entire nation, as it was mentioned by Father Raju, the entire nation is in a festive mood, celebrating Diwali, the feast of lights. But unlike the yesteryears, Diwali this year is so very different. This Diwali is not much about lightings and decorations. This Diwali is not much about traditional attires and jewelries. This Diwali is not much about mithais and namkeens. It's not much about shoppings and fireworks. It's not also much about vacations, promotions in our careers, and a salary hike. But rather, it is more about survival. It is more about being grateful that we are still alive. It's more about thanking all those people who love and care for us. It is more about spending time together and get deeply connected to one another. It is more about instilling hope to those who have lost hope. It is about extending our support and spreading cheer among those who have lost jobs and opportunities due to this menace called the pandemic coronavirus. Yes, this Diwali is more about being hopeful and spreading hope for a better tomorrow. Yes, my dear friends, with these words about the Feast of Lights, I wish all of you a belated happy Diwali. May the light of truth and hope prevail in our life, dispelling the darkness of untruth and despair. Let me now enter into my topic of discussion today. Yes, friends, once again, a very hearty welcome to this webinar on parenting challenges. As an introduction, let me begin with a small review of the particular scenario that we all are going through. Yes, we are living in an unprecedented times with unprecedented situations happening all around us. The pandemic COVID-19 has changed the whole world, and it is changing the human life to the core. And together with that, the very fabric of our family. The UNESCO estimates that nearly about 1.38 billion children are out of school without access to the group activities, team sports, or playgrounds. Parents are working remotely or are totally unable to work and not knowing how long this situation would prevail. For most parents, just keeping children busy and safe at home is a daunting task. And for children, especially the adolescents, their further studies, their future, their career possibilities all look so very grim and bleak. And this has serious implications on our lives and on our society. Evidence shows that violence and vulnerability increased among children and adolescents during this period of lockdown, along with an associated hike in health emergencies. Rate of reported child abuse has risen higher, and parents and children are living with increased stress, media hype, and fear, all challenging our capacity for tolerance and balance. For many, the economic impact of this crisis increases parenting stress, leading to greater abuse and violence, and further to depression and suicidal tendencies and incidents. There have been so many studies being taken place during this period of lockdown with alarming results coming up. There is this particular report. There has been a sharp increase in self-harm incidents and tendencies since the pandemic COVID hit the Indian society. Reports the Times of India as a study was conducted by a Bangalore-based organization, Suicide Prevention India Foundation. Another report comes from Kerala, which says 83 children committed suicide in Kerala during this period of lockdown. According to police reports, 5 suicide deaths occur every day in Jharkhand. In Punjab, a city called Ludhiana, suicide deaths have jumped by 11% during the COVID-19 menace. Such is the alarming situation or scenario that we are going through. And this poses great challenges to the parents and those who are responsible for the growth and well-being of our next generation. Many may feel overwhelmed, not knowing what to do. But at the same time, my dear friends, this also gives us a time to make a retrospection. It also gives us a time to seek ways and means to creatively tide across or sail through these turbulent waters. It allows us to look for a creative opportunity to build stronger relationships with our children and adolescents and to divert and manage bad behavior and also in that process manage parenting stress. With these words of introduction, let me place before you or let me present before you 3 scenarios that we find in the families. Oftentimes, in the process of my counseling with different families and adolescents, I come to hear these sorts of comments from the part of adolescents. In the first scenario, we have a girl in her teens. Of course, the name is changed for sake of confidentiality. A girl of teenage says, I am afraid of my papa. She is simply afraid of her parent. And then she says, when he comes home, I try to hide myself at some corner of my house because I am afraid of facing my papa, who is very harsh and hard with me. And this is the comment made by one teenage girl. That is one scenario. Let us go to the second scenario, where we have two brothers, again in their teenage. They say, we don't care what mom or dad says. We do things the way that we would like. We enjoy our freedom and no one can meddle with our freedom. This is the second scenario that I am presenting before you. And then we have the third scenario, where we have this brother and sister, again in their teenage. We have freedom. We are free to do all that we want to do. But at the same time, we also have responsibilities to look into. We enjoy freedom, but we also have responsibilities and duties. Our parents love us, they provide us with everything that we need, but they are also strict with us. Overall, we love being together as a family. This is the third scenario reported by a brother and a sister. My dear friends, if I ask a question to you as to what scenario that you would like to have or what you are having, I'm sure most of you would report that, yeah, you would like to have the third scenario at your family. Yes, we all would like to have this third scenario where we live as a vibrant and warm family with respect for one another, but also with a sense of responsibility. But friends, unfortunately, this is not the reality. This is not the reality. In my counseling career, all through these years, I have come across so many stories where parents are really weeping and pained because their children do not anymore obey them. Their children are not the way that they want them to go. Children who bring disgrace and shame to the family. There are so many stories that I have come to hear. Let us see some of the counter scenarios, the scenarios that we saw just now. Yes, we have this lady, Mrs. Shalini, who says, our son doesn't obey us at all. He lives in his own world. We do not know what to do with him. That is the sad story narrated by one lady, one mother. Yet we have another scenario where another lady says, my teenage girl neither does her homework. She is not interested in her studies, nor does any household chores. And then what does she do? She is always busy with WhatsApp and Facebook. This is the complaint that is made by another mother, housewife. And then we have this next scenario where Mr. and Mrs. Aurora say, our children are very difficult to handle. Sometimes they shout back at us. They get so aggressive and angry. They shout back at us. Or just leave home if they don't like what we say. It's very, very difficult for us to raise kids these days. My dear friends, these are the realities that are going on in many of our families. And then we ask why? Why this happening? Why such a difficult situation has come upon our families? We all are perplexed. We all are seeking answers to these questions that are troubling us very, very, very severely. Before going into the details of answering those questions, allow me to just present before you a WhatsApp message that I received during these days, a few days back. one of my friends sent this message to me, which says very beautiful sentence. The WhatsApp message is something like this: God created only children. Take notice of that word. God created only children. Of course, the Christian faith, the Bible says God created man in his own image and likeness. But this WhatsApp message is saying God created only children. Children who are pure and innocent. Not even a single adult. Yes. God created only children who are pure and innocent. Not even a single adult. Children who are pure at birth. But then unfortunately, this is what we notice in our day-to-day life. As children grow old, some grow to become good, law-abiding, cheerful, obedient, respectful citizens of a society. We see different types of children. Some are very happy and joyful, confident in themselves, very, very creative, obedient to the parents and teachers, and respectful towards elders. They have a sense of purpose in their life. They have meaning in their life. They have goals to pursue, and then they are full of self-confidence and esteem. It's a great joy for parents and teachers to have children of this sort. But unfortunately, we also notice children of a different kind. Though children being born pure and innocent, we see some of the children going to become so very unhappy, so very dull in their attitude, not having any enthusiasm and energy. Sometimes a great troublemaker in the society, disobedient and disrespectful, low on confidence and performances. Then we wonder why these children are so. And then teachers and parents alike are at a loss as to how to handle these children. This is the question that we are going to deal with, or rather, we are going to explore during this webinar that we are having today. This is the relevance of our webinar, the parenting challenges. Friends, to know more about this, in order to be able to answer this question of why some children are good while some other children are not that good that we expect them to be. To know that, to understand that, we need to also know something about the human person's composition. Psychologists over the years have made great many studies and researches, and then they all agree upon this one factor. A human person is a composite of two determining factors in their lives. One is heredity, the other one is environment. Heredity and environment, these two factors play a great role in determining the development of a human person. Let us see one by one, what are they? Yes, heredity. Heredity is the sum total of that which is given to us, that which is passed on to us genetically through the genes coming from the parents. It determines most of the specific characteristics of our human personality. Then we have the examples of our height, the physical stature, the color of our skin, the facial features, even the shape of our nose, the tip of our nose, the voice that we have, the very organization of our physical structure. All these are given to us, and not much is possible for us to change in what is given. And this is heredity. As against this, we have the next one, the environment, the surroundings, the situations that we come across as we grow. And then these two factors play a very vital and important role in determining the type of development and growth, the type of characteristics that we are going to have as a group. In this environment, there are examples for this environment. These are the factors. Our mother tongue, that the language that we speak, the geographical area into which we are born, because a person who is born in India will have a different perspective, a different outlook towards life than from a person who is born in Europe or in America. So our mother tongue or the language that we use, the cultural conditions, our religious outlook or upbringing that we are given by our parents, the social geographical conditions that we are exposed to, the political ideologies that are given into or thrust into our mindset, our friends and peers, the means of recreations and entertainments that we engage ourselves in, the education and the upbringing that we receive, the books we read, the sites we browse, all these have a telling effect on the way that we develop as a person. All these percolate or drip down into the deeper recesses of our consciousness and influence our development into what we are today. Now, friends, of these two, of course, we may not be able to do much with regard to what is given to us, the heredity, but then we can do a lot with regard to the second factor, which is the environment. And parenting is a part of this environmental factor or human development. There is this famous British psychologist by the name Browning Diana, who speaks of three major parenting styles. And she claims that the children grow into adolescence and adulthood and go on to become, whether good or bad person, someone with high or low self-esteem, depending to a great extent on the environment or the parenting style with which you raise your children. Now, having said that, since parenting is a part of the environment, a deciding factor of human development, let us see some of the changing environment that now we are exposed to. First is joint family system, which was the style of family that we used to have in olden days. This joint family system is fast becoming non-existent, almost disappearing totally from our society. And it has its repercussions, its implications on the growth and development of children. The technological growth, changes in social system, outlook to life, all are furiously very fast. As a result, the child today lives in a different world altogether. Next, both parents are working, and children have more pocket money, either to use or to misuse. Electronic media and internet bring the whole world to our fingertips, and children are exposed, so very violently exposed to unprecedented violence and sex through films, gadgets, and sites. Education institutions, if not all, but a good number of them, have become a place of competition rather than cooperation and inculcation of values. It is an unfortunate scenario that we are getting to see these days. Competitions between the education institutions, so much so that importance is given to competition, winning and succeeding. Value education has become ineffective, and human values and dignity have eroded. It is a sorry state of affairs that we have come upon. Parents spend lesser and lesser time with the kids. Technological development has made the entire world one global village, causing changes in lifestyles, food habits, dress patterns, means of recreation and entertainment. Children and even parents are so habituated to gadgets and technology to the point of getting addicted to them that they are unable to move on without these. They can't even imagine a world without this. Once I was addressing a group of people in a seminar, and then I asked how long a person can live without food. Many people gave different answers. The next question was how long a person live on without drinking water. Without water, yes, a few hours or maybe one day. And then the next question was, how long can we live without online internet connectivity? Then the answer was not even 5 minutes. So that is the kind of scenario that we have come upon. We have been so addicted to connectivity and internet that without these technological aids, we do not dare to imagine a life. Today, as a result of our changed food patterns, there is an early physical growth in children. This is another danger that has come upon. Physical growth in children, even while their mental growth is lagging. Yes, the early physical growth ahead of their mental age, their age and mental growth, their physical changes are appearing so very fast. Girls begin to have menstruation at an early age. Formerly it was between 11, 12, 13, but now it is 9, 10, so early. Boys develop their sexual faculties early as well. This scenario paving way to sexual curiosities, experiments, and exploitations and abuse. Of course, another factor is globalization and free economy create new and unethical needs. The former days, when one is thirsty, we simply get into any family or any shop, and then we just get a free drink of good, pure, plain water. But now, if we are thirsty, we have to pay. We have to pay and then purchase a bottle of water, which is chemically prepared. So globalization and free economy create newer and newer needs in the minds of the people. And TV ads and propaganda give more augmentation to this. An urge to be productive and successful have taken away the sense of morality. Yes, this cutthroat competition and this urge for being successful and productive has taken away the place of morality, a sense of justice, a sense of sharing, a sense of tolerance and forbearance. All these values have disappeared so very pathetically. In a world of competition, comparison puts the spirits down, pressure mounts, and stress is built up. Now the question is how to manage them. Often, parents, though very learned and highly knowledgeable, when it comes to their children, they find it very difficult. They find themselves wanting and feel inadequate to deal with the demands of parenting. Friends, the points that we have seen so far, some of them are here to stay. We may not be able to change them. But then there are so many points which are within our capacity to change, within our control, that we can have an impact upon. That's what we are going to see next. Now the question is, what is parenting all about? What is parenting? We all speak about parenting. There are so many webinars and seminars being conducted by parents on this particular point of topic of parenting. There are so many people talking about parenting. Then what is parenting all about? Parenting is the first and foremost a relationship. It is not a tool, it's not a method, it's not a work that we are undertaking, but rather it is a relationship. And this parenting is less about doing all that is right. It is more of connecting authentically with your children. So that's why I said parenting is not a tool that you can employ. Parenting is not a method of doing something, but parenting is first and foremost a relationship. Children are like sponges and they model after our behaviors. They also absorb our emotions, both pleasant and unpleasant ones. Therefore, even our emotional outbreaks, our emotional expressions will have a telling effect upon our children. Because, as I said, parenting is relational. It is a relationship that we have, a bonding, a connectedness that we have with our children. Caring for children and helping them develop into mature, responsible, and upright citizens of the human family is the sum and substance of parenting. This is the essence of parenting. And therefore, parenting demands good judgment, knowing when to help and when to back off. We need to have good judgment. Parenting is not a silly thing that anyone can simply take up. Rather, this needs good judgment and preparedness from the part of the people who aspire to become parents. The different tasks of parenting. There are three basic tasks. The first one is meeting the child's basic needs, which is physical, the beginning, the initial stages of attending the physical needs of the child. The second one, as the child grows in age, the second one is nurturing or filling the mind, helping the child to develop his or her cognitive powers. And then going one step further, the third task of parenting is guiding the children to show appropriate behavior in the society. So we have these three realms: physical, mental, and social. So prepare a child to respond to all these three realms in his or her life is the task of parenting. We will see one by one. Meeting the basic needs: provide food, clothing, and shelter. Watch over their safety and health. All this come under the first task of parenting, meeting the basic needs. See, there is a beautiful picture over the screen. Parenting is gardening, and there is a question there. The universe blossoms in face of the child. By bringing out the best in your child, you bring out the best in this universe. Beautiful. So the second task is nurturance. Foster the intellectual growth by taking an active role in their schooling. Parents are children's first teachers. And therefore, parents need to give children the freedom they need in order to learn. Provide love and support. Give opportunities for the children to take experiments, explorations, and pursue the things of their interest that would reward them with the good results. But unfortunately, some parents become so very overprotective and therefore over-attentive. Now the third task is of socially appropriate behavior, enabling the child to behave in a socially appropriate manner. Teach them to get along with others, provide opportunities for them to love and to be loved, to get involved in the social activities, programs, and initiatives. After having seen the tasks of parenting, let us see now the three different styles of parenting. If you remember, our first three scenarios where three different children report three different scenarios in their lives. You will be better able to understand these three different styles, of which again that British psychologist Browning Diana speaks about. We have three main styles of parenting. One is authoritarian. The second one is permissive style of parenting. And the third one is democratic style of parenting. What is this authoritarian style of parenting? It is based on the idea that children should obey and only obey. They should obey their parents without any questioning. They do not have any right to question because parents always would say, we know better, you are only a kid, just obey mutely without uttering anything back. So that is the kind of attitude of the parents. They are very, very quick and very firm and very harsh on their children, not allowing an inch of freedom to whatever the child would want to do. Thus, what happens is the child does what the parents says without any question. Now, what is the problem with this? Let us see some of the outcomes of this style of parenting. Of course, the children would be obedient to you. They may respect you, but mind my word, they would not ever love you. Because they are full of fear. They are so afraid of you. And because of the fear of punishment, they may obey you, but then they would never love you from their heart. And these children would be always so distrustful. They may not be able to trust anyone because that freedom has not been given to them. The children would find it very difficult to trust anyone because they always look with fear. They are so anxious about anyone. They are not able to trust anyone. I get so many cases of this kind of children who are unable to trust others. Therefore, they are so very, feverish and fickling. No expression of freedom, no expression of good initiatives coming from them. You can see in the classrooms, in the communities, children who are so withdrawn, reclusive in their attitude, in approach. and by and far very unhappy children. And then later on going to become so hostile towards everyone. So hostile. Why? Because they were controlled like anything, bottled up by the authoritarian nature of the parents, and so much so that they are full of hostility within. And then when they come to a position of power, they retaliate. So they become so hostile towards themselves, towards the parents, and towards the entire society that we cannot find great many achievers among these children who are coming from the families where the style of parenting is one of authoritarian. And this picture over here is so very telling. See, there is a lock over the mouth, over the lips of the child. The child is not able to speak at all. The freedom is taken, snatched away from her. Now we have the next style of parenting. Permissive style of parenting, which is freedom without limits. Parents don't care what their children are doing. The children are simply let loose. They can do whatever they like. Simply let loose. The parents give children a wide range of freedom. The child may set their own rules. It is the child who would call the shots in the family. Parents would move around slavishly to the demands and the stubborn nature of the children. It is more of anything works attitude. The children would develop a kind of attitude which would say to them, everything would work. Sab kuch chalta hai. That kind of an easygoing attitude would be developed in the mind of the child. Parents do not attempt to exert any sort of control over the children. So this is the second style of parenting. And then let us see what are the outcome of this particular style. See, the children would grow aggressive and disrespectful. They would think they are the kings and queens and all others around them are simply slaves to them. And therefore, they simply would demand anything that they want. Least self-reliant and self-controlled. They do not have any any control over themselves. They are not self-reliant because they will always have their parents around to fulfill all their demands. Therefore, they would not take any steps. They would not take any explorations. They would not learn anything by themselves. They would be always highly demanding things from others. There should be always people around them who can dance according to their tunes, who can fulfill their whims and fancies. These children would become to be most impulsive in their behavior and their relationship in society. Least exploratory and most unhappy and unruly. These are the symptoms or the signs that we can see in the children who are coming from a family where the parents are so very permissive, so very permissive. Now, perhaps you must be knowing you must be getting some of the answers to many questions that you may have. Why our child is like this? Why our child is not behaving the way that we want them to behave? The reasons are there in our style of parenting. Now we have the third style of parenting, which is the most preferable one, democratic style of parenting, which is freedom within limits. You have freedom, but then there are also some boundaries set. There are some boundaries set in the family. Some family rules are set which you all respect and abide by. Children have more input into rules and limits. The child is given a certain amount of independence and freedom, but within the limits, within the rules. Democratic parenting is based on warmth, love, guidance, and positive disciplining. Yes, this is an important factor. Positive disciplining is a must in a proper parenting of a child. But the outcome, very, very clear, very, very plain here. Yes, the child grows to be a happy, joyful person, very self-reliant. He or she is daring to take risks, ready to explore, ready to walk the unknown ways and unknown paths. Yes, ready to take risks because he or she has self-confidence instilled into his or her mind by a very understanding style of parenting from the part of the parents. Mostly self-controlled. He or she knows where to put a line, where to mark a line. Yeah, he or she is self-controlled, not impulsive. And then the child grows to be a content person, a friendly person, a generous person, a person who is very responsive to the pains and troubles of the people around, a person who is very cooperative. And then these are the people who go on to make high achievements in their lives. The one example that immediately comes to my mind is that of APJ Abdul Kalam. Of course, he was not hailing from a very well-to-do family financially, but then he is one of the greatest achievers of our nation because he had a very healthy family atmosphere, a very healthy and understanding parents who really took the children into their confidence, allowed them freedom, but also set family rules. And from that healthy and fertile atmosphere came this great personality that our motherland, India, has seen so far. Okay, I will not dwell much on this foster parenthood because we all know, but very briefly we will just go through. Raising a child is more than a day-to-day assignment. It is a lifelong commitment. You have to consider the child's needs first before you attend to your own personal needs. It also brings some kind of changes in our lifestyles. Caring for a young child takes a huge amount of time and energy, and couples are better able to adjust to these changes in life if they prepare for these situations that would come ahead in their lives. Some of the changes that the couples would go through is the emotional adjustments. Parents feel conflicting emotions such as fear of not being a good parent. This is the kind of fear that some people are troubled with. Am I doing the right thing? Am I becoming a good parent to my child? Sometimes the parents could be troubled and disturbed with these thoughts. Frustration at the loss of personal freedom and the addition of new responsibilities. This also can be a problematic thing in the case of some of the parents. Worry over money matters, jealousy of the baby and the tension, the depression due to exhaustion or to the physical changes of pregnancy and birth. So all these things could be there telling factors in our day-to-day life as we become parent and execute the responsibilities of parenting. Changes in the relationships, changes in workplace, and therefore parents should have better knowledge of the child's different stages of development and with reasonable expectations. The parents should be able to distinguish among different parenting styles and identify the ways to improve one's own parenting skills. Of course, this is a time where we need to reflect as to what is my style of parenting. Am I an authoritarian parent? Or am I a parent so irresponsible and so permissive? Or am I a parent who is taking the children into confidence, but also setting limits for them, so much so that I am aspiring and I am alluding to the greater and better growth of my child rather than fulfilling my own whims and fancies. So this is what we need to reflect today. That if we find ourselves wanting, we need to also take efforts to improve our parenting skills. Having said that, coming to my last phase of my presentation, I would suggest a few tips for effective parenting. Of course, many of us are very much aware of these tips, but then let us just reflect together, put them in perspective, in order, so that we could improve upon as responsible parents and teachers taking care of the next generation who are given to our care. The first thing is parents need to change as the child grows. Perhaps many of you would not agree with me, but this is a very important and vital aspect of parenting. Parents need to change as the child grows. I would just narrate my own family background or my own experience as I was growing. Of course, my father, my dad, was a very strict man, very strict disciplinarian. Of course, we also were a bit of afraid of my father. As young child, as I was growing up, I was, kind of afraid of my father. But then now I realize why he was having that kind of a style. But the thing is that now my elder brother, who is the parent of two kids, one aged 24 and one aged 18, he is still continuing the same style of parenting that our father had with us some 50 years back. He is the exact replica of my father. My elder brother is the exact replica of my father. Some 2 months back, I called my nephew, the son of my elder brother. And then he was telling, he calls me Peppa. Peppa means uncle. Yeah, uncle, I am 24 now, but still my father is very strict with me. He doesn't allow me much freedom. You just tell your brother. This is what my nephew was telling me. And then I called my brother. I asked him, Bhaiya, what are you doing? Why are you doing this kind of things with your child who is 24 already? And he said, he quoted our father. He said, do you remember our childhood? Our father was so very strict. It is only because of he being strict with us, we are good people now. What is wrong with us? We are good people. Only because our father was very strict with us. He guided us in the proper way. So that's why I am following the same style of parenting with my children. I told him, yes, that's fine. Your intention is good. But then you should not forget the fact that 50 years back, the situation was very much different than what it is now. We did not have ever seen a TV. We did not have a mobile phone. We even did not have the luxury of owning a small little radio when we were young. But then the children of this generation are exposed to all these things. Then they are smarter than us in many things. We should not undermine this factor. And therefore, my friends, the point here is parents' preconceived ideas of parenting may not work with the present age children, who are sometimes even born with a smartphone. Yeah. So that comes natural to them. These things are still very alien for us, the grown-ups. But then the smartphones, the internet, all these things are so very natural for these children. And therefore, their understanding and outlook and their tastes and interests are so very different. And then we need to grow along with them. The parenting style our parents employed when we were growing up may not be always ideal for our children as they grow up now. The second point that we need to bear in mind is to become a learning parent. There are two types of parents. A teaching parent, see, I have put that in the bracket, an authoritarian, and a learning parent who is a democratic. A teaching parent is always checking and controlling and ordering and disciplining the child, not allowing an inch of freedom to the children. Whereas a learning parent who is a democratic look and is ever vigilant about what contributes to the growth of the child. So that is the only concern of a learning parent. What and which would enable me to contribute in a better manner to the overall growth of my child. That is the concern. That is the intention. Not to fulfill my own ego, not to fulfill my own whims and fancies, but rather how can I contribute to the better growth of my child? And that is the only guiding principle of a learning parent. And therefore, we need to become a learning parent rather than a teaching parent. They change and grow along with the child to better suit the needs of the child. Yes, this is in continuation of the first point that we saw. They change and grow along with the child to better suit the needs of the child. Even learning new skills like gadgets and topics or developmental psychology and many other technological things that we need to know to keep pace with the demands of the growing child. Then we have the next one, have reasonable expectations. Yes, this is a very, very important factor that we should bear in mind. We should have reasonable expectations. We can have dreams. We can have aspirations with regard to our children. But we should not impose our dreams upon our children. We should not reflect our dreams which were not fulfilled because of some situation that we were in. We should not translate these dreams upon our children. An essential first step in effective parenting, yes. Caregivers need to be sure to match their expectations to the capabilities of their child. Do not overburden them with your expectations. A few months back, before the start of lockdown, in the month of February, I was in Bangalore and I met a mother of two kids. And this lady is very much close to me, very much known to me because we hail from the same village in Kerala. And then she's working in Bangalore, and then she talked to me, the father, I have this great problem. I asked why, what is that? She said, my child who is in the high school doesn't anymore obey us. She is so very moody. When she was in the lower classes, she was performing well, but then these days she is also failing in some of the subjects. And she's so restless, fidgeting here and there. But I expect her to keep that same pace of performance. I want her to excel in her class, but unfortunately she comes with a progress card which has red marking in that. And then I'm so very upset about that. I met the child, I met the girl. I asked her about her history and then the years of growth that she has gone through. And then I came to know that this child has a problem of ADHD. If some of you may be knowing, this is a very serious problem that is affecting our children. ADHD, attention deficiency hyperactive disorder. That is what it is called officially. This is a neurological problem where the neurons of the brain are wired in a different manner, and therefore they have this low threshold of ability to attend. Ability to give attention to something. They are easily distracted. They cannot concentrate. However hard they may try, they cannot sit quiet for a while in the same place. That's a kind of neurological disorder that this child is suffering. But unfortunately, since the mother does not know this, the mother thinks that the child is having a very bad character. He or she is disobedient. He or she is diverted or distracted with many other things. And then the mother also is afraid that the child is into bad habits and bad relationships with other people, into bad company. That she is worried about. But we need to have a realistic understanding of the child. Understand the capability of our child before we expect the results from them. We need to have reasonable expectations. Caregivers need to respect the differences between the children. This is another thing. Oftentimes we have seen parents making comparisons between siblings. We have a very sad story of a child called Roshan who committed suicide by cutting his veins. Why? Because he is rather low in his education performance, whereas he has an elder brother who is always the top of the class. Every time both these children get their progress card, the father and mother bombard the child, Roshan, with all this criticism and questions. If he can be the top of the class, why can't you? This is the kind of question that always they ask this young child called Roshan. They do not understand his special situations, the special situations. They are always worried about the kind of good name that the child can bring by performing well in the education to the family. They want to be proud parents of achievers. They are not trying to become the parent of the child, the precious gift that God has given to them. And then they always make comparisons. Maybe, my dear friends, comparison is the most heinous crime that you can do to your child. Comparing your child with his or her siblings or friends, and then belittling your child. The case that happened with regard to this small little child, Roshan, is that he was so fed up. He was so fed up with this comparison that he has been hearing from the very childhood to this time. And he was so full of remorse and bitterness. And then he thought, there is no way of excelling. I cannot surpass the performance level of my brother, and therefore my parents do not love me, they don't value me, they don't accept me, and therefore there is no question of living anymore. Saying that he cut his veins and committed suicide. And there was a suicide note which is so very telling, my dear friends, in which he wrote, "Let me be myself. Let me be myself, at least in death." It is a kind of desperate situation that this child has come on to because of the comparison that the parents were making. Let me be myself, at least in my death. So, my dear friends, please have reasonable expectations. Never, never, ever commit this mistake of comparing your child with another child. Every child has a right to be what he or she is innately, the way that God has created him or her. Who are we to meddle with that? Let him or her be what he or she is. Do not push them into that. I'm getting emotional, sorry. Communicating positively. Yes, use words that the child can understand, but avoid talking down and criticizing. Say things plainly. Do not say in a very, coward manner. I want discipline in my house. I want everything to be in order. Don't say that. Say exactly what you expect your child to do. Give clear instructions in a loving manner, in a positive and polite manner, and then children would easily pick them up. Limit the directions to those that are very essential only. Don't bombard the child with so many orders and instructions. Talk about what is meaningful to the child. Help the child to make meaning of what you say, and he or she will easily obey. Highlight the positives. Highlight the positives. Appreciate what is positive in your child, however little or insignificant it may appear to you. Even the small little progress that your child is making, appreciate it, celebrate it, so that he or she will feel a sense of achievement. A sense of achievement, a sense of accomplishment would fill in the mind and heart of the child that would make him or her self-confident with a high self-esteem. Show interest in his or her progress. Always have a word of positive encouragement for your child, and always neglect the negatives. This is a new branch of psychology, a growing branch of psychology, which is known as positive psychology, which tells you to look into the positives, and automatically the positives will be augmented and the negatives will be neglected and diminish and go. Yes, your child may be good in something, but also may be bad in some other things. Don't always pester the child with your comments about his negatives, but rather encourage what is positive in him, and automatically his attention would be focused on the positives, and he himself would get away or get rid of the negative impacts in his character. Be a good listener, wonderful thing. Be a good listener. Unfortunately, most of our modern parents are failing in this regard, as we have seen in the changing environments. Both parents are so very busy working, both are working, so very busy, so much so that they do not have time to spare with their kids. Avoid over lecturing. Today's kids are far more smarter than we are or we think them to be. Be an active and patient listener of your child. He or she has a lot of things to tell you. The child looks for someone to listen to their stories, their achievements, their failures, their fears. Yes, they have so many stories to tell. But the question is, do we have time to listen to them? This instills confidence in them. If you are ready to listen to them, that would instill confidence in the minds of your child. There is a story, very sad story of a boy in Doha. a boy belonging to Indian community, diaspora, working in Doha. This child was so very good in his performance, I mean, studies and all in the childhood years. But then, both the parents are desperately running for money, running after so many works. After they work in the office, they also come and conduct some kind of family business, and both of them are so very desperately running after earning money. Of course, they may have their own explanations for that, their own difficulties that they have to attend to. But unfortunately, this boy could not find any kind of listening ear in the persons of his mother and father. So much so that he got into bad habits. He got into bad company and ended up being a drug addict. Yes, my dear friends, if we can spare some little time to listen to the stories of our children, many of our youngsters can be saved from getting addicted to unwanted things. The question is, the billion-dollar question is, can we spare time to listen to our children? Respect the child. Your child is a bundle of possibilities. Nobody knows whether your child is going to become another APJ Abdul Kalam, or another Sachin Tendulkar, or another Dhoni, another Shashi Tharoor, another Lata Mangeshkar. Who knows? Who knows? Your child is a bundle of possibilities. Your interventions and interactions should be empowering and not discouraging. Every child is unique and individual, independent of all else. Give them due respect and dignity that will instill self-belief and confidence in your child. Now, discipline. Many people say, and even some of the psychologists, the modern psychologists say we should not discipline the children. How come? My question is, how come? We need to discipline our child. We need to have clear family rules, limits set for our child, but not in a disheartening manner, not in an aggressive manner, but rather with love and understanding. That is the difference. Anushasan, jiske bina jindagi bahut mushkil hai. Yeah, we need to have discipline. We need to have discipline, but then in a loving manner, in an understanding manner. Help the child to find meaning in what you tell him or her, and he or she will easily internalize it. Have an eye for what is there instead of looking for what is not there. As I said a while ago, the positive psychology, focusing on the positives rather than the negatives. Be assertive with your child, but not aggressive. Have a check on their friendships, the books that they read, the program that they watch, not to spy over them always, but rather to avert dangers, because sometimes the children are unaware of the dangers that may befall on them. And therefore, as grown-ups, as people who are aware of these dangers, the people with years of life experience, we need to have a watchful eye, but again, with love and understanding. Be responsive, not reactive. Simple things, we no need of explaining it much more. Do not explode in anger at your child's wrongdoing. Sometimes the children would do something which is not expected of them to do, which is not becoming of them. But then we should have a check on our expression of emotion. We should not explode with anger. Take him or her into conference, lovingly show him or her the mistake, and then they would oblige. Now, the most important question is, what is education all about? What is it for? Friends, education is not just mere degrees and marks and grades and a good prospect of a good job. Education is for quality. It is that which helps form a decent and dignified human person. Yeah, education should enable a person to grow into a decent and dignified human person, a dignified, responsible citizen of the society. If education is not of that effect, then education is nothing, or it's simply a business. Good values like truthfulness, charity, empathy, forgiveness, orderliness, punctuality are to be the priorities. These are to be the results of a good education. Otherwise, as Amir Khan says in Three Idiots, we say well-mannered, well-behaved person, not well-educated person. Yeah. Celebrations, another important factor, celebrations. Every child is a precious gift that God has given to us, and therefore we need to celebrate every single child. The birthdays of the child, the passing of a tough exam, and then various achievements that this child is getting in his or her life. We need to have a celebration so that the child would be will be filled with a sense of importance and sense of accomplishment that would boost his or her self-confidence and esteem. But at the same time, while celebrating, we should not make it an extravagant activity, simply making so much of a show of the resources that we have. Rather, instill a sense of sharing, concern for the less privileged. The importance of sharing is so very vital when we have some celebrations of our children's birthdays or achievements. I was working in Hingangat, in a place called Hingangat, a few kilometers from Wardha. We have a school there. Then near to that, another 10 kilometers from Hingangat is a place called the Jam, where we have an ashram, where we take care of the people who are wandering over the streets, the people who have lost the balance of their mind. We take care of them. We have an ashram there. So we used to inspire the children of our school. You celebrate your birthday, you should celebrate, but then celebrate that not with your friends, with throwing a big party with so much of an expense and extravaganza, but rather spend the most precious day of your life, the most important day of your life, with the people who are less privileged, the people who are deprived. Let your celebration be benefited by the people who are trying to meet their both ends, the people who are deprived, the people who are neglected, the people who are abandoned, the people who are on the streets. Let your celebration be an occasion of filling at least their stomach for one time. Inculcate this love for the people who are deprived, the people who are poor, the people who are there out on the street. Inculcate the value of sharing into the minds of your children. And then they are going to become wonderful human persons, responsible citizens of our country. Now, godliness or religious values. Of course, faith, devotion, prayer, everything is so very personal. It is within a person. It is not to be shown or worn outside. But at the same time, these are very vital aspects of human life. Of course, we have our freedom. We have our own faith traditions. But at the same time, we should inculcate in our children a respect for the people of other religions. Religious harmony is a backbone of any society. All are the children of one loving creator God. Yeah, that is understanding of it. Whatever may be the religion that we belong to, whatever may be the kind of society or the class or the caste that I belong to, all are alike, the beloved children of a loving creator God. If we can instill this value, religious value and understanding into the minds of our children, our society would be a better place to live in. But unfortunately, the current situation in our country and elsewhere is much to be decided. I don't want to dwell more on that. Of course, you all can easily understand the situations. Now, perhaps this is the most important aspect that I would be talking about. Availability. Your availability to your child, your personal gift. More than anything else, give yourself to your child. Spend time with him or her. Listen to their stories. Wonder at their wisdom. Be the best friend of your child. And it's very, very important. Gone are the days where the parents would dictate and the child would follow or obey. Now, parents and children are more of friends. Be the best friend of your child, so much so that he or she would not feel the need to go to someone else, fall into bad companies, and get into trap with people out. Be the best friend of your child. Instead of giving your child some mechanical things, some gadgets when he or she is crying, give yourself to your child. He or she needs you. His or her world is revolving around you. I have a very sad story of a surgeon's son who, in his 12th birthday, on his 12th birthday, committed suicide again. So very unfortunate. And this surgeon is not a man who is running after money, but he is a surgeon who is so very empathetic to the poor plight, the sad plight of the poor people. He conducts surgeries left and right from the very early morning to the late nights, sometimes or very often even without charging the people. He is such a lover of humanity. But unfortunately, he was not finding time to spend with his child. So the child knows only one thing. Whenever progress card is issued, all the children come with their parents. Rather, or all parents accompany their children to the school. Whenever there is a PTA meeting, parents of other children are coming, but only this particular child doesn't have his father with him. It's only his mother always accompanying him. And then sometimes even his classmates were making fun of him. And then one day, so very desperately, this child told his father, "Father, tomorrow I am getting my progress card. And this time, I don't want to hear any excuses. I want you and mom together coming to the school." Then the father promised him, "Yes, I would come back." But unfortunately, again, there was a serious surgery that he had to attend to. And then, unfortunately, he could not keep his word. The child did not know, or rather, he was not of that age to really understand the kind of good work that his father is doing. He knew only that my father, if he loves me, he would keep his word and he would accompany me. But unfortunately, the child was so very sad because he could not see his father in the school campus. And that filled him with bitterness. And then, as I told you, he ended his life. Now, who is to blame? No, not the father, not the child either. But the point here is, if you are ever aspiring to become a parent, if you are a parent, whatever good works you may be doing to the society out there, that is fine, but then that cannot be justified if you cannot give ample time to your child, because you are a parent and therefore you have a responsibility towards your child. If you cannot fulfill that, whatever great work you may be doing, you cannot be justified. But the simple point is, we need to find time to spend with our child. Our availability, our presence is the most precious gift that we can give to our children. Be a role model. Of course, we have seen this. Children are like a sponge, picking up everything that they see in and around them. And then as the child is growing up, he or she is always looking to the parents, and then they would simply pick up everything that the parents are doing. And therefore, we need to be a role model before our children. Now coming to the end of our talk, family, the first school. There is a great role that family has to play, as we saw in the hereditary environment. Heredity is that which is given, which cannot be easily changed, but in the environment to which we can do a lot. And a family is part of that environment. The first school, family is the first school. Child is a social product. Child is a social product. It's not an individual private business. Child is a social project, is a product as well as a project. And this project is to be accomplished by these three stakeholders: the parents, the teachers, and the peer group. All these three partners have to come together in accomplish this project called a child who is to become a social product. If the parents are not in good relationship, it affects the growth of the child. So the importance of the family and the parents. If there is bickering and quarreling and fight between the parents, that would disturb the mental peace of the child. That would affect the growth of the child. That would go on to make the child also a quarrelsome person. Kids are the worst sufferers of family conflicts and marital distress and divorce. Maintain, therefore, a healthy, peaceful, and happy atmosphere at home. Same thing. And therefore, it is also considered, the family is also considered as the major source of security, the safe haven against all perceived threats of the outer world, and forms the cradle of all positive human and social values. All the human values are inculcated in the family. And therefore, Saint Chavara, Kuriakos Chavara says, family is the heaven on earth. It's a replica of heaven here on earth, a functional family. But then a dysfunctional family can also be a replica of hell here on earth. Ultimately, fear not, God is with us. In spite of all our good intentions and hard work, sometimes things would not evolve the way that we want them to evolve. Of course, parenting is a demanding task and difficult task, a responsibility that we cannot simply fail. But it is also a dynamic process. As we have seen earlier as well, there is no perfect parenting parents, and there is no perfect parenting style as well. God is the ultimate parent. We may fail. In spite of our good intentions and efforts, we may still fail because we are limited, weak, vulnerable human persons, frail human persons, and therefore we may still fail. God is the ultimate parent. With Him, everything is possible. That's why this English poet, H.G. Longfellow, beautifully wrote, act in the present, the heart within, and God overhead. Yes, we should do all that is possible to us, but then also being aware that we have our limitations. But having that faith that there is God above us, catering and covering our life. Yes, leave our lives into the hands of a loving God. Faith in God helps. Prayer has power. Be truthful and sensitive in our efforts. But in spite of all our efforts, sometimes things can go wrong, and then faith and prayer come to our aid. Leave the rest to God. Now, friends, seek the help of experts in moments of confusions and doubts. Accept the reality and to learn to live with it. I would end this presentation with these words from Osho Rajneesh, who said, "Nobody is superior, nobody is inferior, but nobody is equal either. People are simply unique and precious in their own way, incomparable." And then he concludes, "You are you, and I am I." Allow that space to ourselves, to our children, the society, to be uniquely what we are, never ever trying to compare our children with others. Accepting him or her as he or she is, and taking all sincere efforts to improve upon. Ever bearing in mind that you are you and I am I. Thank you very much. And for further queries, as it was said by Father Raju, please contact me at these two numbers: 9422 191 324, 9764825114. I'm Dr. Joshua Arpale signing off. Please, you also make visits to SAMVAAD campus, SAMVAAD, which is very near to Savagram, in between Savagram and Wardha, especially the people from the city of Wardha. Please make a visit, not with problems, but simply as a friendly visit. We have a lot of things to discuss and learn and grow to a better future. Thank you very much. Before I wind up, I also want to bring to your notice another webinar that we are planning in the near future, a webinar on learning disabilities. We have come across so many cases where children are not performing up to the expectations of their parents and teachers. And oftentimes we think that these children are having some bad characters, character problem. But then sometimes, friends, it's not a character problem, it's a neurological problem. So if you remember that film, Tare Zameen Par, dyslexia, and then there are so many other learning disabilities which children are suffering from. Sometimes we may not be able to understand that, we may not be able to identify that, and then we criticize and accuse our children of lethargy and laziness. So we are conducting this webinar on learning disabilities on 6th of December, Sunday, 6th of December 2020. The time is 10:30 to 1 p.m. The link for registration of this webinar would be posted to the WhatsApp group of this particular webinar that we are having in a matter of 1 or 2 days. So thank you for your patient listening. Let us all work towards a better generation. Let us all try to grow as parents and teachers along with our children as they take their steps towards progress, development, and kind of completion of human life. Thank you very much. God bless all of us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Reverend Father Dr. Joshi, for this vivid, brilliant, and knowledgeable session. We have indeed imbibed a lot. Thank you so much, Father. Participants, please note, the link for the feedback form will be posted to the Google Meet chat box after the question and answer session. The form will be accessible till 20th November up to 7 p.m. I repeat, participants, please note, the link for the feedback form will be posted to the Google Meet chat box after the question and answer session. The form will be accessible till 20th November up to 7 p.m. Now, as we proceed for the next phase of the webinar on parenting challenges, I now call upon Dr. Mejo and Ms. Firozma to conduct the question and answer session. Over to you, Dr. Mejo and Firozma.
Thank you, Rita madam. And very good evening to everyone. As we all have participated in this wonderful session on parenting challenges by Dr. Father Joshi, we have a few questions from the participants. We will kindly request Dr. Father Joshi to guide us with his expertise. So moving on to our first question.
Excuse me, sir. Dr. Mejo, sir, please increase the volume. Yes, to make it audible.
Is it audible now? Shall I- So moving on to our first question. As a parent, how can I help my child to tap his or her actual potential?
Sir, if you could hold the mic in front, your mic, it could be audible better.
Let me take over. Good evening, everyone. Here the question arises from one of parent. Sometimes we use comparison to imbibe the competitive spirit in children's heart and mind. Without comparison, as you have mentioned, how can we achieve this? I repeat the question for Dr. Joshi Wasapille. Sometimes we use comparison to imbibe the competitive spirit in the children's heart and mind. Without comparison, as you have mentioned, how can we achieve this?
Sorry, Firoz ma'am, can you repeat that question once again? I did not
Yes,
get
Father.
it clearly.
Yes, Father. Sometimes we use comparison to imbibe the competitive spirit in our children's mind and heart. Without comparison, as you have mentioned, how can we achieve this?
You mean to say that we need to instill competitive spirit in the minds of the children without making comparison, right?
We actually make comparison just to make the
Yeah, we make comparisons.
Yes.
Which is an unfortunate thing. We should not make comparisons. But even without making comparisons, of course, we can instill the spirit of competitiveness into the minds of our children, provided we are able to give them we are able to set high goals. So to achieve some goals, we need not compete with someone else. I was trying to say, everyone is uniquely specific. So why should we worry? Why should we compare ourselves, or why should we make comparisons of our children with someone else? Everyone is unique. Everyone has his or her potentialities. As I was trying to mention, every single child is a social product and a project which is to be accomplished. So set high ideals, high goals in front of them, but also at the same time being aware of their capabilities. As I said, we should not have unrealistic expectation from our children. But if it is within their reach, if you know that there are surroundings, there are situations where really our child can grow and become great achievers, we can set these high standards before them. But then never making that mistake of comparing. Treat every child as unique and independently very specific. Give good high ideals and targets in front of them. Let them pursue that in their own capabilities, in their own specific ways and means. Let them pursue that to become achievers. But then again, the question here is how competent they should be. They should be competent, but along with that, they also should have that relatedness, connectedness with the fellow human beings. We cannot simply grow all alone and then keeping everyone under our foot. So that even when we say that competitiveness, it should be in the inverted comma. It's not a competitiveness or competitiveness without limits, without considering the people around. We are not growing just for ourselves. This is a point that always I bring to the notice of the people who come for counseling to my clinic. We have a responsibility to grow. We have a responsibility to make progress in our life, not just for ourselves, but to contribute in a better manner to the making of the society. So always that contributive factor of being competent is very much necessary. Yes, ma'am. I think it makes sense to you. Yes, Firoz, ma'am.
Thank you, Father.
Yeah. Do we have any more questions?
Yes, I asked Major Sir.
Yeah, Major, are you ready?
Yes, yes. Am I audible, Father?
Okay, yes, Major, come on.
As a parent, how can I help my child to tap his or her actual potential?
I think this is already answered in my previous question. Because as I told you, every child is a bundle of possibilities. The attention of every single parent is to recognize what is hidden within. And of course, many of you are teachers and parents, and then you know the very explanation or the definition of education is, which comes from a Latin word educare, means to bring out. Every child has that potentiality within him or her, but the role of the parents and teachers is to recognize that hidden potentialities, unearth those hidden precious pearls within them. But then, as I told you in the previous answer, it is never making a comparison or making or trying to succeed and belittle someone else, but rather to enable the child to grow to his or her full potentialities in relation to how this child is going to become a contributive factor to the building up of the entire community or the society at large. Yes, Major?
Okay, Father.
One more question, Father. Children are not interested to have healthy food. How to encourage such children? Nowadays, children, they don't like healthy foods. They just
Healthy
love
food.
junk foods. Yeah.
Junk food. Yes, as I was trying to make a point when we were discussing about the changing scenarios, the changing environment. This is a result of the changing social atmosphere that we are having. People are so very fast. Yeah, people are so very fast. The basic principle with regard to food is what is tasty is not healthy. Very often. I'm not simply making a blanketing statement as such, but then in most cases, what is tasty may not be healthy. So again, if you can appeal to the good sense of your child in a loving, understanding manner, not trying to impose, not to curtail his or her freedom, but rather to relate with him. If you can make a sense of what you are saying. For example, I will just give you a simple example of, what we do. I don't know what is it said. I mean, utbais, that is what we say that in Marathi or Hindi. We ask sometimes as a punishment that in the schools, teachers ask the child to do the sit-up. No? It is employed as a punishment. And if you ask your children to do that, not many children would be willingly do that. They will be reluctant to do that. But you know what is the basic reason behind that kind of an exercise? You hold your left ear with your right hand and then your right ear with your left hand. Now, what is happening there? Our brain has got two hemispheres, the left and right hemispheres, or the left brain, the right brain. All that we do is because of the interaction between these two hemispheres of the brain. And then holding your left ear with your right hand and right ear with your left hand, kind of energizes or activates the kind of vibrations, the kind of communications that is taking place between these two hemispheres. And then that would augment, that would enlarge your concentration capacity. That would allow your child to focus his concentration. That's why in the olden times, the teachers were employing this method. When the teachers see that the children are distracted from the topic of their study or they are distracted in the class, in order to enable them to get a better focus and attention, the teachers were employing this method. But unfortunately, these were employed as a kind of punishment, which children repel. Children do not want to be punished. But then if you can narrate this, the underlying principle of this, the benefit of doing this, they would happily admit or they would happily oblige to you. So only thing is that any habit that you find not becoming or not acceptable in your child can be changed, can be modified. That's what we call as behavioral modification, which we psychologists employ to a great extent, to great effect. But only thing is that you have to make sense of this to your children. If you can impress upon your children and enable the children to understand what you say, then they would be happily obliging to your instructions or your advices. Yes, ma'am?
Thank you, Father.
Yeah. Any other questions? We are almost running out of our time. I would perhaps admit one more question and then
Hello, Father.
we could wind up.
There is a question by one Dr. Benny Varghese in the chat box here. Please, he's also asking if he can ask a question directly. Please address the issue, please. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a question from Dr. Benny Padan, who happened to be, who was my batchmate way back in the 80s and 90s. Dr. Benny Varghese Paduan, who is working in Muscat now. He is also a psychologist, and then he goes on giving seminars and other things. Let me see what he has asked. It is a pattern or exercise of mental gym. Yes, it is a statement that he is making. It's not a question that he is asking. It's a statement that he is making. Very much, Father, very much. Yes, Doctor. Embarrassment is a habit in us. How can we break it? That we can, as a psychologist yourself, you know it better, Doctor, because any habit is a learned habit. That is what the psychologists say. Any habit is a learned habit. As we saw from the beginning, it's part of our environment. Children, when they are born just plain and blank, pure and innocent. So any habit that we have formed, any behavior that we are exhibiting is a learned behavior. It's an acquired habit. If it is an acquired habit, we can also, if it is a learned habit, we can also de-learn it and then relearn. But then that's what we, in our fraternity, Dr. Benny, in our fraternity, we call as behavioral modifications. There are so many techniques to be employed in that field, which we all do. And then as and when some cases come, depending on the merit of that particular case, we employ different techniques. But then this is for sure, habits can be de-learned and relearned. It can be modified. Yes. As we are approaching our time, perhaps we can wind up. But then, if any more question is there, just one brisk question I could accommodate. One brisk question from anyone I can accommodate.
Excuse me, Father. This is the question. How to realize children that the thing they are doing or they have opted is wrong while using democratic parenting? I repeat, how to realize children that the thing they are doing or they have opted is wrong while using democratic parenting?
Yes, ma'am. That is a good question. Yes, it's a bit difficult, of course, especially employing a democratic style of parenting. You cannot punish them. You cannot pester upon them. But in a very loving manner, you can tell them what is right and what is wrong. Of course, every human being, I'm a religious. I believe in God. I am a theist who believes in the existence of God. And as a believer, I do believe that there is this presence of divine in every one of us. That is what we call as conscience. Even psychologists would agree that. That is what we call as conscience. In the Freudian psychology, we call that the superego, detecting what is moral, what is good. So there is this spark of the divine, the spark of goodness and truth in every single human person. So if you can bring home to this aspect to your child, with patience, of course, it may not be that easily possible at the very first attempt, but then with repeated patient efforts, with love and understanding, you can win over your child. You can win him or her over to you, taking him or her into confidence, with respect, with love, and patiently keeping on trying. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Father.
You're welcome.
Yes, with this, we come to the conclusion of question and answer session, Father.
Yeah, one second.
Yes, Father.
There is a request from one of the participants. I think we should answer that. It's not a question regarding the class, but someone who is asking for the PPT of your presentation. I think for Joshi can directly respond to it, either positive or negative. Please, Father.
See, we usually don't give the PPT directly to the people. If, as a policy, I mean, it is a policy that is abided by in most of the education institutions and official forums. Therefore, as a policy, we don't give the PPT publicly to anyone. But if someone is so desirous of getting that, the PDF file of this would be passed on to him on personal request. And then again, this webinar is being live streamed on YouTube, and then that video clip would be there in our YouTube channel. So as and when someone wants to refer back to this webinar, they can always visit our YouTube channel. But again, as I said, if anyone is so desirous of getting this PPT, I mean, this material that I have prepared, if they make a personal request, we can consider that. No issue. No issue. We can consider that. Certainly, yes.
Thank you, Father, for making that point very clear. Thank you.
Yes. So as I told you, you have my number. I mean, people can get my number. It is 9422, which I had already showed on the screen. And also it is available from our WhatsApp group. Now we are also sharing the link for feedback into the chat box. Please see and then respond to the feedback form, and then you can get your e-certificate on submission of your feedback form. This is the link. Yes, I'm done. Ma'am, over to you now.
Thank you, Reverend Father. Thank you, Dr. Mejo and Feroz ma'am, for undertaking the question answer session, the proceedings smoothly. Thank you so much. Now we have almost reached the end of the webinar, and we would like to express our sincere gratitude to all of you. For the same, I call upon Feroz ma'am to propose a vote of thanks. Feroz ma'am, for the vote of thanks. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mrs. Feroz Sheikh, and I'm here to present the vote of thanks for today's webinar. I would like to thank our webinar speaker, Reverend Father Dr. Zoshi Varapalli, a renowned resource speaker and director of SAMVAAD Masada, for enlightening us with their knowledge. As we all know that parenting is a tricky thing where we have to handle the delicate minds of our children. Today's webinar was full of knowledge and guidance. It gave deep insights into the topic and also revealed some interesting facts. It will definitely help all of us in our parenting. Being a parent, I have learned a lot personally. Thank you, Father, once again from the bottom of our hearts. I would like to thank our principal of St. Anthony National School, Wardha, Reverend Father Raju Joseph Avukaran, for organizing this webinar session. Thank you, Father, for encouraging such webinar for the goodwill of society. I would like to take a moment to thank Rita ma'am, Harsha ma'am, Dr. Major Joseph sir for their immense contribution to make this webinar successful. I extend my thanks to our technical team, which is contributed by Nitin sir, Master Justin Thomas, and Master Jocelyn Manuel. Finally, I acknowledge the unconditional love and support given by our parents. Where we stand today is the combination of your endeavors and efforts. Thank you very much for your valuable presence, suggestions, and questions. I would like to thank all the viewers who directly or indirectly attended this webinar. I thank all the school members of St. Anthony National School, Wardha, and the members of SAMVAAD Masada. Last but not the least, I would like to thank Almighty for His blessings all through the session. Thank you.
Feroz ma'am, thank you so much for these wonderful words of gratitude. Well, let's end the webinar on a cheerful note. Let's put into action what we have imbibed today and make it fruitful by becoming efficient parents. It was my privilege to host such an exuberant gathering. Now, let's honor and pay tribute to our nation respectfully as we listen to the national anthem being played. Thank you everyone.